It's cold in here. I'm like really shaky. I don't even know why I'm doing this right now. Just kidding. It's actually not cold in here. And this video is related to that topic of being cold because today I'm going to be going over cold weather clothing. Specifically, I'm going to be talking about clothing that I use during spring and fall where the weather can vary drastically, and then also late season. This video is going to be for backpackers, it's going to be for hunters, and then outdoor enthusiasts who are interested in getting into colder weather recreating but don't know how to properly layer. Okay, thanks for sticking with me so far. I really appreciate your patience. Before we dive deep into this overview, let me go ahead and take off this puffy jacket so I'm not sweating my butt off. I'm going to go hang it up on the rack, and then we'll get into this review. Stay with me. In front of me, I got two different kinds of socks. I have synthetic to my right or your left, and then I have merino wool to your right or my left. I have a larger selection of merino wool because I really like merino, and then I have a small selection of synthetic. These are all socks that I'm going to use in colder conditions like spring or fall. And then also I'm going to use these socks in really cold conditions, late season, during hunting. And then if I'm doing any kind of outdoor recreation in the winter, I'm going to use, more merino wool type socks, and they're going to have thicker cushioning, and it's just going to be a thicker overall sock. Now, before I dive into the synthetic versus merino, we'll just talk about cotton real quick. Cotton really isn't important, especially during cold weather. One, it holds moisture, and with that moisture, you lose temperature in your feet get cold. And then also another downside of cotton is that you're actually going to get a lot more rubbing because your socks can be wet, it's going to slide around. So in general, we just don't like cotton for any kind of hunting or hiking or backpacking or anything like that. So we're going to stick to synthetic or merino wool. Now, let's talk about the benefits of synthetic. Synthetic is going to dry quicker than merino. It's got a lot of moisture wicking capabilities, and it also does keep your feet warm, but it tends to not be as warm as merino wool. And the other downside of synthetic is that when you get it wet, it doesn't have the same heating properties of merino wool. Now I have a few different brands here. We have Nike, Eddie Bauer, and then this is Weatherproof. It's from Costco. I believe this one's actually a synthetic merino blend. It's like 70% synthetic, 30% merino. Regardless, it's more of a synthetic sock, and these are socks I'm going to wear maybe in spring and fall when I know I'm going to be in wetter conditions and I'm not really worried about the extreme cold. I'll probably choose synthetic. But if I'm worried about the weather being colder, or I'm going to be hunting in late season or outdoor recreating during late season, I'm going to choose merino. Now there's different weights of merino wool that you can get for socks, and typically you're going to look at a cushion rating, and the more cushion a sock has, the thicker it's going to be. It's going to be more comfortable in your boot. So the plus side about merino over synthetic is that when it's wet, your feet still stay warm. The downside of merino is it doesn't wick moisture as well as synthetic, so your feet are going to stay wet longer. And then another plus side about merino over synthetic is that it actually retains stench in the sock, so you don't actually smell it as much as you would a synthetic sock. It just has a natural enzyme that actually retains the stench of your stinky feet in the sock. And that's also a reason why I tend to use merino over synthetic, is it just doesn't smell as much. And then also I'm hiking around, my feet sweat, and even though my feet are sweaty, it's still going to retain that heat. So now that we talked about socks, let's go ahead and shift gears to underwear. Stay with me. I'm going to change things out back here, and then we'll talk about underwear very briefly. Since we already talked about synthetic versus merino, and we talked about cotton when we talked about socks, I'm not really going to go into the materials so much as I am the durability of synthetic versus merino. We're not really going to talk about cotton because I don't wear cotton when I'm hiking or backpack hunting, but I do wear synthetic polyester underwear more often than I do merino. and that is just because it seems to be more durable. Now, it doesn't matter what brand you get, they're all pretty much the same. I have Nike right here, and then I also have Columbia. But what I will say is that this underwear holds up better than Merino. Merino, it always just blows out in the gooch area. The Merino is just not as durable as polyester. And ultimately, I find that I like wearing polyester underwear over Merino. We've talked about socks and underwear. Now let's talk about cold weather headwear. Okay, so everything I have in front of me here is stuff that I'll use at different times of the year, depending on how cold it is. So obviously, if we're in late September, early October, I'm probably gonna still wear one of my Ignited by Nature hats. Yep, I rock the Blaze Orange Ignited by Nature. I actually have quite a few of these for sale. I need to put them up on the website. I haven't done that yet, but check the website pretty soon and you should see these up. So if you want to support my channel, buy one of these hats. They're 25 bucks. If you want to do that, that would really help me out and I'd appreciate it. But typically I'll bring a hat and then I'll have something like this polyester, really thin beanie. This is like one of those condom beanies I was talking about. And just looks like I'm wearing a condom on my head. But I'll pair that with this Ignited by Nature Blaze Orange beanie, and it helps keep my head warm, and then also the cotton will absorb the moisture from the polyester, and my head just stays a lot more dry, and I don't have to worry about my head getting cold. So it's a good layering option for when it's not too cold out and you still want to have kind of a lightweight setup. And then other options you have are something like this synthetic beanie. This is just like one of my standard issued military beanies that I use every once in a while. And then I also have this merino wool. This is a thicker merino from Filson. You can actually wear this beanie into late October and it will keep you really nice and warm. And then this is another beanie option for early September, late September, and then early October. This is a merino wool beanie from Swarovski, and I wear this quite a bit when it's not too cold out. Now, when we start getting into late October, November hunts, we're talking about hunting the rut, whitetail rut in northern Idaho, and we're late season hunting. I'm going to be bringing one of these face masks. This is a Tundra face mask by First Light, so it's like that synthetic merino blend. It's very nice and warm. Also, you don't have to buy First Light. I have this standard issued face mask. This is another military face mask that I'll wear every once in a while. It's not as thick, so honestly, this would be a great option to take with you if you wanted a face mask in late September, early October. Then I have these other thicker face masks. This is from Under Armour, and this one's a Kiln brand, which is Sportsman's Warehouse. Doesn't really matter what you choose. You just want to make sure that it's thick enough to keep you warm, and then it's also breathable, because when you have a face mask on, you're breathing and there's a lot of moisture coming through that mask, so you want breathability so the moisture is not collecting on your face, because you're going to get cold that way. So you definitely want some breathability. Now, if I'm packing a quilt during this late season, I'm also going to bring a balaclava. So the one I tend to use is this First Light Tundra. Runs about 50 bucks, so it is more pricey, but it's a merino wool synthetic blend, and it's got really good breathability. Keeps my face warm at night. I tuck my puffy hood over it, and then I have this on, and then I pull my quilt up towards my face and I stay nice and toasty. And then I also save weight because I'm packing a quilt and not a sleeping bag. If it's not that cold out, here's another option for a balaclava if you want your face covered still. This is a nice thin synthetic option. So you really have a lot of options for headwear. Alrighty then. So we just finished up with headwear. Let's go ahead and talk about gloves. Give me some spirit fingers. In front of me, we have a ton of different options of gloves here. Now, I'm going to use these gloves in different situations, and as of right now, I'm not going to use all of them. I probably need to sell some of these because I've kind of upgraded my toolkit over the years. But this is everything that I've used, and then I'm just going to talk about when I would use them. So first off, I'm going to talk about these rag wool gloves. These are cheap wool gloves. You can get them on Amazon. I got these ones at the BX in the military, and I've used these for a long time. These ones have fingers. I also have a gray pair that is fingerless, so I used to pack those together. So I'd use the fingerless, and then when I got cold, I'd put the fingered ones on and then put the fingerless over. So that's always a good combination. These are First Light merino wool gloves. These merino wool gloves by First Light actually give you the option to use your smartphone because they have smartphone compatible fingertips, so that's pretty cool. And then I also have a fingerless pair, and as of right now I'm using these two gloves mostly in late September and all the way into late October, and then I'm just going to bring an extra pair of thick gloves depending on what the weather's like, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But these are the two main pairs of gloves I use. Here's another pair of gloves that I've used for a long time. This one has like holes in it. Probably retiring these pretty soon. These are my Sitka merino wool gloves, and these have been great gloves. I've had these for years, and these are also smartphone compatible gloves. Next, you have these gloves by Under Armour. These are scent control gloves, and they're not very waterproof, but they are great gloves if you're in dry conditions. You could also pair these gloves with a pair of merino for a little extra warmth, and then you just get a little extra weight that you're packing in if you don't just choose to go with the merino option. These gloves are kind of a hybrid. They have polyester at the top and they got some leather on the bottom. So when I'm packing merino gloves and it's cold out, I always bring a pair of gloves that are mitten style. I like these gloves. I think these are Hot Shot gloves, and I'm not sure who makes them. It might be Browning, but these are a polyester leather blend, and I like to put my merino gloves on with the fingers, and then I will use these gloves on top for extra warmth. And then if it gets really cold, I just pull this mitt over, and then I have a mitten. So those are really nice gloves because you kind of get the best of both worlds. You get to wear the merino, and then you have a synthetic with a leather blend that's thick, and it's going to keep your hand warm. If I don't want to go with these gloves, I also have a merino option that is basically the same thing, except it's a little bit lighter than this synthetic leather glove. These merino gloves are basically 100% rag wool merino, and then they have some felt along the thumb and the palm for extra grip. So these are gloves that I used to pair when it wasn't too cold out with these merino gloves or these merino gloves. I really like these mitt options because you get an extra layer over your fingers on top of the rag wool fingertips. You also have this mitten to go over to give you extra warmth when it's cold. Next, we have a hybrid. These are like mechanics type gloves. They're actually a hunting glove, but they have kind of a mechanic style setup where it's got leather on the inside of the hand, so you have extra grip, and on the outside it's polyester. It's kind of a good hybrid glove. I don't really use these that often, but back in the day I used to use them before I got into the merino. Honestly, the merino is kind of the best because you can sweat in it and it wicks that moisture, and even when your hands sweat, you still stay warm even though the glove might be a little wet. Next, I'll talk about these puffy synthetic blend gloves I bought from Sportsman's. These are Kiln. I've used these for a long time now. They have leather on the finger portion, and then it's kind of a puffy synthetic material. When it gets really cold, I was using these merino gloves with these, and my hands stayed pretty toasty. I did have a little bit of an issue with the wind. When it got really windy, I could still feel everything. So for that reason, last year I ended up going with the First Light Brooks Puffy glassing gloves, and these have been a game changer. So I'll still pack my merino gloves, but when it's really cold, I'm going to pack these puffies, and it's going to be a nice option just to keep my hands warm, especially when I'm on the binoculars all day looking for game. So I really like these puffy gloves, and it's a great combination to pair with the merino set from First Light or any kind of rag wool merino glove. Like I said, you don't have to buy the First Light. There's lots of options out there. So just do your research and kind of pick a good combination. But I could say that puffy gloves are a game changer, especially when you get into late season, November, December hunts. You're going to want those. So then lastly, we'll just talk about hand warmers. This hand warmer is something that I used quite often back in the day. I don't use it as much anymore because I'm doing a lot of glassing, so my hands are always out. But this is kind of a nice extra option if you wanted to pack the extra weight to have. If your hands get really cold, you put some of those thermal squeeze hand warmers that you can just tear and they start to heat up. You stuff them in here, and then when your hands get cold, you just stuff your hands in there and they warm up, and then you can pull them out when you need to move your glass or anything like that. So just another option I just wanted to mention. Now that we finished up with gloves, let's go ahead and talk about footwear. Let's talk about the boots that I'm wearing during cold weather conditions. So in front of me, you'll see that I have 3 sets of crispy boots here. I have the Summit GTXs, the original OG crispy boot, and I got these in 2019. I've done over probably 450 miles in them. I need to reapply a suede coating to this upper part of the boot because it's not as waterproof as it used to be. But overall, it's been a pretty good boot, and it is their cheapest boot model. And I originally went for it in 2019 because I was on a budget, but it's been a phenomenal boot. And then in the middle here, I have the Crispy Nevadas. These are a great boot. They're uninsulated. Both these boots to my right or to your left are uninsulated boots. And I'm pretty much using these throughout the whole hunting season, except for during late season. I'm going to be using these Wild Rock GTXs, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But I use uninsulated boots because if you have too much insulation in your boots when you're hiking, they're going to sweat, and sweating just makes your feet cold. And then also, if you sweat too much, your feet could slide around and you could potentially get blisters. So I try to avoid insulated boots when possible. But if I'm doing a lot of sitting or it's just really cold, I'm going to actually use these Wild Rock GTXs, which are a 400-gram Thinsulin boot. So they have 400 grams of insulation, basically. All these boots in front of me are a 3 flex rating. So Crispy has 1 to 5 as a flex rating, 1 being very flexible and 5 being very stiff. Now, for most hunting situations out west, you're not going to need a 5. And then a 1 flex rating is really going to be for if you're running trails a lot and stuff like that. And when I mean running, like hiking a lot of trails. But for general purpose use, you know, you're hiking up the side of a mountain, you might be on a trail for a little bit and then you're going straight up. I find that 3 is a really good middle ground, and it is the middle ground for Crispy. As far as my insoles, I use a semi-custom insole, and these insoles were basically prescribed by my podiatrist, but they aren't a custom insole. The way he customized it is he added this extra padding right here, and this is meant to be arch support. So I have a lot of arch support. Now, the Summit GTXs and the Crispy Nevadas are going to be my go-to boots pretty much throughout the whole hunting season, like I mentioned earlier. And I'm going to use these in September, October, and all the way up into Thanksgiving and November. Obviously, I'm not using these as much right now because I bought these new ones, and I've really been loving the Nevadas, the uninsulated version. And, you know, my feet don't sweat too bad, and they got pretty good flex. And then with my custom insoles, these boots are just amazing. I don't have any blisters or anything, and I really like running these Nevadas. I'm going to apply another coat to these Summits so I can use them, but these have kind of been my summer scouting boot, and I use these a lot in the summer. And then once hunting season comes around, I use these Nevadas. Now that I've talked about the Summit GTXs and the Nevadas, I'll go ahead and talk about the Wild Rock GTXs. These boots are a full grain leather boot, and these are the boots that I choose to use when it's really cold out. So I'm talking late November, December, and even when I'm trapping in the wintertime, I'm going to be using these boots. Usually in the wintertime, I'm not hiking as much as I would in the spring and fall. So these boots are really great because my feet aren't sweating as much and I get to stay warm when I'm not moving as much, but I can still hike in these. Some of the things that I really like about these boots and all Crispy boots is the tread is phenomenal. I find that I can walk in the snow. I live in the mountains and my road gets icy, and I find that when I'm walking the dogs or taking my dog around a walk, that I don't even need tracks. I can literally walk with these boots and I barely ever have slipping issues. So the tread on these boots is really nice. So I really like the insulation and the tread for winter. And then the flex rating of 3 gives me that versatility. Okay, so that's pretty much everything I wanted to say about boots. Obviously, if you can't afford multiple boots like me, then you just want to pick a boot that's kind of a middle ground. Like these Crispy Nevadas are great. You probably don't want an insulated boot if you only have one boot that you're going to choose, because the insulated boots, they're just not good if you're doing a lot of hiking. You're going to sweat. You might get rubbing. So you really want to go uninsulated, because once you're moving, you're really not going to feel anything anyways. And if you have good socks, good merino wool, your feet are going to stay relatively dry. Now, with that being said, if you only have an option to have one boot, or even if you just have multiple boots, but you want your feet to stay warm when you're glassing, I would highly recommend that you get some of these booties. Now, they don't have to be First Light. I just like First Light, and I tend to have a lot of their equipment, but I also have a lot of their equipment over other companies because I tend to find better deals on their equipment. These are glassing booties by First Light, and I'll wear these if I hike to a spot and then I'm just doing a lot of glassing. I don't put my boots on in the morning. I wear these camp booties, and they got a lot of insulation, and these are kind of like a synthetic puffy, so they're a great option to keep your feet warm. And then they also have kind of like this breathability and airflow to your feet that doesn't cause your feet to sweat or get cold. They just, you do a lot better with these on if you're doing a lot of sitting and glassing. So if I'm on a glassing intensive hunt, I'm definitely going to bring these with me, especially if it's late November and December. Any of those late season hunts, these are a game changer, and I'm going to pack the extra weight. Thanks for sticking with me so far. We covered boots. Let's go ahead and talk about base layers. I'm going to move these boots out of the way and get my base layers on the table so we can talk about that. So in front of me right now, I have different long john options that I have used, and obviously I have a lot of different long johns. I like testing gear. Obviously, most people will not have, you know, 7 pairs of long johns, but I've just tested a lot of gear, and I like First Light zipped long johns now. That's kind of what I always use. But I started off with these long johns, and these are pretty old, and I don't even think they had zip long johns before the First Light ones came out. So I started off with Smart Wool. This was a hiking brand that was affordable. I got them on sale for like $70. These are 175 GSM. And then I also have these synthetic long johns by Under Armour, and these are around 200 GSM in thickness. So you have 175 GSM merino and then a 200 GSM polyester or synthetic. It really depends on the scenario which one you would choose to use, but typically in really wet conditions I might go with the synthetic because it's going to dry faster. However, if I'm not worried about being soaked and, you know, maybe sweating a little bit, I'm going to get the merino because it has better warmth properties when wet. But with that being said, I really don't use these 2 pairs as much anymore. I probably am going to sell them or give them to Goodwill. I don't know if someone would buy them, but I'm typically just using these First Light merino wool long johns now. So in front of me right here, these green ones, these are the Kiln long johns, and they're zip. These are full length, and I really like these long johns because they are zip. I really don't worry about the GSM rating of long johns, except for when it's really cold. I'll wear the Furnace, which are 350 GSM. But most of the time, I'm just wearing these 250 GSM long johns, the Kilns. And if it gets hot, I just pull down my pants and unzip them and toss them in my pack. And then if it's really cold, I'm gonna wear probably these Furnace long johns. And like I said, all these are zip. These are by First Light. These are a boot length long john. And these are nice if you're going to be trudging through the snow. I usually wear these ones because then I don't have to worry about my layers soaking into my boots, my boots getting wet. Because if, I don't know if you've ever had that happen, but if you're wearing socks and you're wearing long johns and you put your boots over and your pants get wet and it soaks down into your long johns and it soaks down in your boot, you just end up with a wet boot. So I'll typically wear the boot high long johns if I'm going to be trudging through snow. Then I also have these brown Furnace long johns that are full length. Basically, these are the same as the ones I just showed you. They're just not boot length. So when you throw on your boots, the boots are going to go over these. And I'll typically wear these if I'm not worried about trudging through snow. With that being said, I think the most important thing that you could take from this section of the video is that you really want to pay attention to GSM, and that's grams per square meter, and that's just the thickness of the fabric. If you're on a budget and you can only afford one of these, you kind of want to assess your situation and talk to yourself about, you know, what am I going to be doing with these? Where am I going to be hunting, or where am I going to be hiking? Am I going to be in cold weather? And then you want to buy based on that criteria and then pick a thickness that is kind of going to meet all of those. I would say that if you only could choose one, I would probably choose the Furnace or something like the Furnace, something that's a thick 350 GSM that you can unzip and take off and throw in your pack if it's too hot, but if it gets cold, you can throw it on. I really like the zip options because you can just have them on when you start hiking, and then if you get too hot, you just take off your pants, unzip them, throw in your pack. It's pretty easy. It's not like you have to take off your boots or anything like that, and I really like the zip option. It just saves you a lot of time and obviously a lot of comfort because you're not having to like take off your boots, take off your pack, put it all back on. So definitely go with the zip option if you have the means to. For upper base layers, you got a lot of different options. You got short sleeve, you got long sleeve, which I'll talk about later. But for right now, let's talk about what I'm wearing. This is a First Light WICK. This is a 150 GSM t-shirt, and this is my base layer of choice for September and October. And then once it starts getting colder, I'm gonna go with a long sleeve. The WICK also comes in a long sleeve, and we'll go over those options right now. Let's check them out. This is a 150 GSM t-shirt by First Light called the WICK. I absolutely love this shirt. I wear it all the time. This is kind of my everyday wear and my hunting shirt. I don't know if you know this, but I identify as a hunter, and so I wear hunting clothing throughout the year because I want people to see that I'm a hunter. That probably sounds kind of funny, huh? Right? Well, there's a lot of things these days that sound funny, but I wanted to say that, and I did, so whatever. Now, anyways, moving on. This is the conifer color, and there are a lot of different color options. I have so many color options because I like to wear different colors based on the type of situation I'm in. Typically, if I'm hunting an early season and everything is still red or reddish color, I'm going to wear something like this gray because I don't look like an animal and I won't get shot. If I was hunting moose, which I haven't got to do yet, I probably wouldn't wear this color because I look like a moose. And if I'm walking through the woods and it's a hotter day and I'm not wearing a jacket or anything, I'm going to look like a moose. Someone could shoot me. Okay, so I've said everything I want to say about the WICK 150 GSM t-shirt. Let's go ahead and just take a look at each color option a little bit closer. This is the ash color in the WICK. Again, this is MERIWOOL 150 GSM. This is the same WICK shirt, just in the new Terra color. And then lastly, this is the dark earth color. Wow, my t-shirt magically changed into a long sleeve shirt. I must be magic. Well, maybe you're a wizard. No, I'm not a wizard. I actually just changed my shirt, and I wanted to show you the WICK in long sleeve because the WICK also has a long sleeve option. It's still 150 GSM, and I'll typically wear this once it starts to get colder. They also have other color options, and if you look at the wall, you'll see that we have dark earth, and then we also have the Terra color, and these are both WICK t-shirts, or WICK long sleeve shirts. Actually, they're not t-shirts, they're long sleeve shirts, and these WICK long sleeves are 150 GSM. They also have finger holes for your thumb. If you're wearing gloves, it gives you a little bit extra warmth on half of your hand. Okay, so we talked about the 150 GSM WICK t-shirt and the WICK long sleeve. Now we'll talk about the Kiln by First Light. This is a 250 GSM shirt. It's a long sleeve and it also has the thumb holes. It's a great shirt when the weather starts to change and really get cold. I typically don't like wearing this if it's not cold because you'll really sweat, especially if you have a mid layer on top. This is a pretty warm shirt, so I typically will not wear this unless I'm whitetail hunting. It's close to Thanksgiving, or we're hunting in late December, and even when I'm hiking, it's cold. So this is a great shirt for those colder options. It doesn't matter what brand you choose. You just want to be looking at the thickness of the material so that you can have the right material or the right thickness and the right warmth ratio for your hunt or your hiking needs. Behind me, we're just going to take a quick look at some of the other options that I have as far as upper base layers, and we'll just talk about when I would use them. And really, the base layer you choose is going to be based on the situation that you're going to encounter when you're out there hiking or hunting. So the first one I want to talk about is this synthetic polyester base layer by Kiln. This is long sleeve, and this one is a 150 GSM synthetic. Now it's a pretty lightweight shirt. It's going to be lighter than merino wool just because it's synthetic, and I really like this shirt if I'm going to be hunting in wet conditions where I really need that moisture wicking capability over the staying warm while wet. Because if you're going to be constantly wet, you're just going to be miserable, and merino wool doesn't dry as fast as synthetic. Next, we have this merino wool base layer by Smartwool, and this is 150 GSM. This is just another option that you have. You don't have to go with hunting gear. You can use hiking gear, especially if you're a REI member. The REI garage sale happens every year, and sometimes you can find really good deals on clothing. And then lastly, we have this 175 GSM Smartwool long sleeve shirt. We have different options as far as thickness, and we're going to choose a different thickness depending on how cold the weather is. So that's pretty much all I wanted to say. I'm either going to use merino wool or synthetic in most cases. Actually, that's all I'm going to use. But I've also used a synthetic merino blend. You kind of get the best of both worlds. It really just depends on the situation that you're going to be hiking or hunting in. You just want to look at the weather and then assess the situation. Alrighty, so I covered everything that I wanted to on base layers. Let's go ahead and talk about my mid layer options, or what options you have as far as cold weather gear. Now, a lot of the mid layers that I use are between 175 GSM in thickness and 350 GSM. It really just depends on the temperature that I'm hunting or hiking in. And so I'll talk about that as I go over these. The first layer that I'm actually wearing is 175 GSM. This is a merino wool jacket by Swarovski. It's actually pretty good. I like the material they use. It's lightweight, or lighter weight for a mid-layer jacket, and it runs really nice as far as warmth to weight ratio. And I just really like this jacket for a lot of things if I'm hunting or hiking in late September or early October. So this is kind of the jacket I'm probably going to use. It has a hood, and I really like the hood because it's not like one of those little condom hoods. It's actually a hood, and I can zip it up. It has pretty good coverage of my chin, and I can just move around very nice, and it's not too thick. Next, we'll talk about the Filson jacket, and I've also mentioned this jacket in my other video where I talked about summer layering. This is going to be an outer layer that I pack with me during the summer, but it's a mid layer that I have during the winter or during cold conditions. This is a 250 GSM jacket, and it's honestly pretty warm. I'll wear this jacket in October and all the way up to Thanksgiving, and then I'll have a puffy outer layer. But this jacket's really nice because it's not too heavy. As far as the hood on this jacket, it's one of those condom type hoods, so it really sucks to your head. What I find with the condom hoods is they look funny, but it's really great for heat retention, as far as retaining that heat when you throw this over your hat, say it's cold in the morning, or you throw it over your beanie, you're just going to retain the heat well. So that's a nice feature of these elastic hoods. Like I said, this is merino, and it's a 250 GSM, and this is typically something I'm going to wear in late October all the way up to Thanksgiving. Also, another option you have that I really like is this synthetic merino wool sawtooth jacket. This is made by First Light. It's a really nice jacket. I don't even know if they make this anymore. I like it. I've been using it a lot. And the thing I like most about it compared to the other jackets is it has a lot of pocket access. But if you look on the outside of the jacket, you have two zip pockets, one on each side near your hip. And then you have a front chest pocket that's zipped. This is awesome to carry like a headlamp or your tags. So I really like this jacket and I use it a lot. And then if we're getting into the later season, we're talking after November and you're hunting in December or January and it's really cold and you're going to be hiking in cold weather, but you want something that's warm and breathable, I'm going to use this furnace hoodie. This is a great mid-layer jacket. It's got an awesome hood and it's very warm, yet it's breathable. I tested this hoodie a lot out last year in the winter, and I slept in cold conditions at 10 degrees. This was my main layer besides my puffy if it got really cold. But even just walking around in this, I did a lot of work, and I did some trapping in it where I didn't even have a puffy. And I just felt like it kept me nice and warm, but when I was hiking, I could feel the breathability. It's kind of crazy. I don't know how to explain that, but I would actually feel the air when I'm hiking, but then when I'm just sitting, I just stay warm. I didn't feel like airflow. So I don't know how they did that, but the technology of this merino wool blend is very nice. And it has a really nice deep front pocket. So you can carry some gloves in there, some puffy gloves or a headlamp or something like that. Awesome. Now that we talked about upper body mid layers, let's go ahead and talk about pants. Stay with me. So let's talk about pants. Pants are definitely important. You definitely want to look at the thickness depending on the environment that you're going into. You want a thick pant, a heavy GSM or grams per square meter if you're going into a cold environment. And then if you're not in a cold environment, you can get a lighter grams per square meter pant. But basically, that thickness is something you do want to consider, and I can't stress that enough with picking out pants. Now, typically for backpacking and hiking, you're going to want either a synthetic or a merino or a synthetic merino blend. If you can't afford that, you can get away with cotton. you're just going to want to make sure that you pick a base layer that's either merino or polyester or some kind of synthetic to pair with that cotton pant, because that cotton pant is going to absorb the moisture or wick the moisture from the base layer, and that way it's going to keep you a little bit more dry. However, the problem with cotton is it does hold moisture, and if it's cold out, it's not going to dry easily. So that's a downside about cotton, but I have used it. As far as cotton pants go, I do have these Carhartt pants. These were cool with construction workers before they were cool with women, but now Carhartt is like a fashion thing, but they are good pants. You can also get something like Dickies or some other kind of work brand. It doesn't have to be Carhartt. These are actually more expensive than they used to be. I like the Carhartt work pants because they have a lot of pockets, and when you're out in the field, pockets are nice. So this one is your traditional heavyweight pant, and this is just their traditional work pant. Then you have more of a casual cargo pant, and that's this lighter brown pair right here. These lighter Carhartt pants are also cargo pants, and they are a lighter weight, so they're a little bit lighter than the work pants. One of the cool things I like about these cargo pants is they do have cargo pockets on the side, and then you also have nice back pockets and nice deep front pockets. So both the Carhartt options or any of the work pants always have a lot of pockets, and they're really nice to use out in the field, especially if you're on a budget. Next, let's talk about the Katana pants. These are a mid-weight pant by QU. I really like these pants more for summer, but if you're wearing a base layer with these, you can get away with these pants in fall, so September and October, and they are 180 GSM. Typical of QU, they have a lot of pockets. You have two deep front pockets, and then on the right side of the pant, you have a cargo pocket that zips, and then inside that cargo pocket, you'll also find another zip pocket. And then on the side of the pant, you have a vent that you can unzip when it's hot to let air in, and then when it's cold, you can zip that back up. So I really like these pants. Like I said, they're a good mid-weight option, especially in September and October. Once it starts getting colder, you're definitely going to want a heavier pant. So for that, I usually use the QU Attack pants. Now, they're going to have a lot of the same features as the Katana. They're going to have a lot of cargo pockets. This is a black Attack pant, and then I also have a brown Attack pant. This black Attack pant is, like I said, very similar to the Katana. You have a side zip pocket on the right side, and within that pocket, you also have another zip pocket that's mesh. So you got mesh pockets on the front of the leg, and then on the left side of the leg, you also have an extra zip pocket. Unlike the Katanas, this one has an extra zip pocket. And then on the side, like all QU pants, you have those vents that are really nice. And then the back has two back zip pockets, and then on the front you also have the two front pockets that are deep. These pants are really nice. They wick water. They have a DWR coating. Every couple of years you'll have to reapply that DWR coating in the wash, but these are awesome, durable pants. These brown Attack pants I've had since 2019. I have to apply another DWR coating to these because they're not as water resistant as they once were. Man, these are a durable pant. And both these Attack pants are 250 GSM. They're going to be nice in that colder weather. You can vent them out if it gets warmer. You know, they have a side vents that you can unzip. But this is my go-to choice for anything in late October, November, or December. And then I'm just going to pair these pants with the 350 GSM base layer, like that First Light furnace I showed you earlier. And I'm going to be toasty warm in these, and it's going to be a great option. Next, we'll just talk about the Attack Pros. So similar to the guide pant that QU has, but I don't even think they make these anymore. I got these in 2019 as well. And the main thing that I use these for is hunting in the desert. They have knee pads, so it makes it really nice when you're on rocky terrain and you need to be crawling. These pants have all the same features of the Attack pants, so we can just briefly go over those. They have the front pockets that are deep. Then on the front of the leg, you also have a cargo pocket on each side. The right pocket has an additional zip cargo pocket, and the left pocket just has one cargo zip pocket. And then on the left side and right side, you have a ventilation zipper. So if it gets hot, you can unzip your pants to have extra ventilation. And then if it gets cold, you can zip them up. Like all QU pants, it's a very nice feature. And then on the back of the pant, you have two back pockets that are zipped. Just a lot of pockets, which I like because I like storing things in my pockets. I don't get too crazy, but I do keep tags and knives and flashlights and things like that, especially once I get to my camping destination and I just have a day pack. I might pack a couple extra things. If I need to drop my pack, I can stuff it in my pockets and just go. and then I just put a GPS mark on where my pack is so I can find it later. Always put a GPS mark on your pack because it sucks when you lose it out in the field. So anytime you leave your pack or drop it somewhere, drop a GPS on Onyx or Go Hunt, whatever you use. That's a lifesaver. Lastly, I could talk about a wool pant that I like to use. Now, these are a military issue wool pant, and you can get these on eBay or any military surplus store, but these are just an old school wool pant, and they're actually probably my thickest pant. I believe these ones are around 300 GSM, and a lot of times I won't wear these pants unless I'm not hiking that far. If I'm only hiking in a mile or two and I know I'm going to be sitting a lot, I might wear these pants because they're thick. And then when I pair them with my furnace base layer, I'm going to be toasty warm. And I really like these pants for situations where I'm not hiking a lot. But if I am hiking a lot, my go-to is the attack pants for very late season. And then if it's still early September, late September, or early October, I might use these katanas. And then if I'm not worried about snow at all, I might use cotton. But like I said, cotton's more of an option. If you don't have the budget to buy one of these expensive pants, you can go with some kind of work pant, and it's going to work just fine as long as you pair it with a good base layer. But for anyone else, I highly would suggest going with a merino wool or a synthetic. I personally like synthetic because it wicks moisture better and it dries faster, especially when you're hunting in wet conditions or snowy conditions. These QU Katana pants and the QU Attack pants just seem to work great. Okay, we're getting close to the end here. So now let's talk about our outer layer, or the puffies. Puffies are going to be something you're going to want to wear when it's colder out, and we're talking November, December, and maybe even January, depending on where you're hunting. So to get started, we'll just talk about our lower puffy layer, which is going to be our puffy pants. And I have two different options here. So basically, you're either going to be using a synthetic puffy or a down puffy. Now, depending on what you choose is going to be up to you, and it's also going to be dependent on where you're hunting. If it's pretty wet out, you might want to go with a synthetic puffy. However, the down technology has gotten a lot better over the years, and they do have hydrophobic down now, which is supposed to be water resistant. But in general, if I am hunting in a wetter environment, I'm probably going to go with a synthetic down. So for synthetic downs, we can talk about this First Light Uncompadre 2.0 puffy. And these pants are bulletproof. I've had these for about 3.5 years now, and I've bucked through brush with these things. I mean, these things are super durable. I really like these pants. They don't have any pockets. They are a zip off pant though, which is really nice. So in the mornings you can throw them on, and then when it gets warmer you just unzip them. So I really like these pants. They have a really nice weight to them, and for a synthetic puffy they are pretty packable. Next, I'm going to be talking about the Grumman puffy pants. And these puffy pants are made by Stone Glacier. These are a great option because they're lighter weight than the Uncompadres that I mentioned. So these are my go-to when it's really cold out and I'm trying to conserve weight and then also trying to conserve space in my pack. These puffies are cool because they also come with a little stuff sack if you're into that. You can stuff these down to a pretty small size. And then like the Uncompadres we just looked at, they also are zippered. So you can actually unzip these pants and take them off very easily. Most of the hunting brands do have puffy pants that unzip. I think that's a pretty common feature now. I like having both the synthetic or the down puffy as an option because it just gives me more versatility out in the field. However, if you only had to choose one, I would probably go with a down puffy. The new down is treated and it is hydrophobic, so it does wick water, and it's just probably a better option, especially if you can only buy one. I would go with that. So we talked about down pants as an outer layer. Let's go ahead and talk about an upper layer. First off, we have this Brooks down puffy. This is an 800 fill power down by First Light, and it's a lighter down jacket. So this is something that I would use in September or October, and then maybe even into November. But if it starts to get really cold, I'm going to switch to something else. This is a great option for a hydrophobic down. So if it gets wet, it will dry. It won't dry as fast as synthetic, but it does have that hydrophobic capability. I like this jacket because it has a hood that you can cinch up and get really tight against your face. And it also has zip pockets on the side that you can reach into. They're very deep. And then if you unzip this jacket, it also has some pockets on the inside where you can put something like gloves or a flashlight. So I really like the storage pockets on this jacket. And I really like the fact that you can cinch up this hood when it's really cold and get it tight to your face to retain that warmth. Another option that I might use if it's pretty wet, maybe I'm hunting in Oregon and it's going to be cold out, but I also need something that can wick water better than down. I might use this Uncompadre 2.0 puffy jacket. This is a synthetic puffy. It's not as packable as the Brooks down puffy. So you have this front zipper pocket that I really like, and it unzips and you can store something like tags or flashlight in there. And then it has two deep pockets. You can put snacks or gloves or something lightweight that's not going to drag you down too much. And then lastly, I want to talk about my late season jacket. For me, for late season, so I'm talking November, December, January, I'm going to be wearing a puffy jacket. In my case, I have this Chamberlain puffy by First Light. I really like this puffy because I feel like the warmth to weight ratio is pretty good. It's 800 fill power, so it's not like an 850 or 900. So you don't get that same warmth to weight ratio that you would with a higher fill power, but it's still a pretty good middle ground, and I like its packability and warmth. Some of the features of this jacket include a zippered axis inside. So when you open up the inside of the jacket, you have a zippered pocket so you can unzip it and you have deep access to put something in there if you need to. And then on the other side, you have a stretch pocket so you can put gloves in there. Typically, I like to put gloves and batteries and stuff that I need to keep warm with me during the day. I'm going to stick it in these pockets. And then you zip this jacket back up. You also have a side zip pocket on each side and the front. And these are nice deep pockets. Once again, you can store food in here or anything that you need to keep warm and close to you. And then like the Brooks and the Uncompadre puffies, you can really cinch down the hood on these jackets. And so when it's cold out, you can keep your face nice and warm. So we talked about puffy outer layers. Let's go ahead and finish up with rain gear. This is something that I don't normally take with me, but I did want to touch on it real quick. Okay, so I don't want to spend too much time on this because honestly, I don't think rain gear is that important for out west. Maybe if you're hunting in Alaska, it might be important. I haven't hunted Alaska, so I don't really know. But I can tell you from living in Idaho and hunting in Oregon and Washington and Wyoming, I haven't had to use rain gear hardly at all. So I just wanted to talk about that for a little bit. And then also I just wanted to talk about what I have for rain gear and when I've used it. Now, first off, when I started getting into hunting and buying more technical clothing, when I had a little bit extra money, I went and invested in this QU Yukon gear. Now, this is a whole set. I've only used it once. The Yukon rain set is extremely heavy. I think it's 3 pounds with the gaiters, the pants, and the jacket. And I just don't need it. And it doesn't pack down that well. So it's just a lot of extra space in my pack. So I tend to never pack it. But it's something I have if I ever do go to Alaska. I like this setup. It's 100% polyester. If you take a closer look at the jacket, it has a front zip pocket, and then it has 2 side pockets that are pretty deep so you can store materials in the jacket. And then the hood is also a nice hood that can be cinched down. It is just an awesome rainproof piece of gear. The pants do not have pockets, but they do have zippered access on these Yukon pants. So you can unzip these pants and take them off easily, and I like that. And then you can also tighten the pants. They have a built-in belt. That's another great feature that I wish that QU would include more in their pants, but they don't yet. And then these gaiters, I haven't even bought an additional pair of gaiters. I just have these, but I never use them. I've used them a few times, and I feel like anytime that I need to use gaiters, I end up using Crocs. And the only time I'd use gaiters if I was like hiking through a creek or something like that. And then in the snow, I just feel like I don't really need them. I just don't really use gaiters, but I did want to mention that I do have them. So after doing some research and looking for some light gear, I ended up settling on the Helium rain set. These are made by Outdoor Research, and I really like this rain set because it weighs under a pound for both pieces, and it is something that I would pack with me if I know there's going to be rain in the forecast. This rain jacket in front of me is actually pretty basic. It does have a front zip pocket, and it does have a hood that you can cinch down, so that's nice. But ultimately, it's just a lightweight rain jacket that actually works pretty well. I haven't had any issues staying dry when I put it on. And then the pants, these pants are also very lightweight, and they have a back zipper, and that's about it. They don't have any zippered access on the sides or anything like that, so you just have to slip them on. But overall, these are just a nice lightweight rain pant, and I think Outdoor Research did a really great job. Now that I've covered everything that I wanted to cover with this video, we can go ahead and wrap this thing up. I hope this video helped you out. This video is definitely meant for those looking to learn how to layer for cold weather conditions, and also for those looking to upgrade their toolkit. If you like this video, please like and subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate it. And then also, I'd like to hear your feedback, and I'd also like to know what you're doing these days. So leave a comment below. And if you like this video and you want to watch similar content, check out the description below and you'll find similar videos there. Now, with that being said, my name is Chris with Ignited by Nature, and until next time, guys and gals.